Hey everybody, I'm Curtis.
And I'm Hannah.
And this is Love at First Fright. It's been... I started to say it, and then I realized, and then I was going to say it, and we locked eyes, and you went with it. No, it has been really hot.
So hot.
I know I'm not saying anything new to, like, anybody if you live in the South where we live.
Yeah.
It's been just miserably hot.
Yeah. It always gets hot in the summer. It's so humid here and everything, but this has been especially bad. And it is exhausting. Like, I just don't want to go outside for even to, like, check the mail. Like, I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, like, because we go outside to go up the driveway, and by the time you come back in the house, you are drenched.
Yeah, it's way too hot.
Because it's just way too hot and humid. Yeah,
yep.
It makes being outside really a chore.
Mm-hmm.
We went to go see another movie last night, and it was... We got there, like, really early, and it's in one of those, like, outdoor shopping center things.
Yeah.
And so we decided, we'll just go walk around and look at some stuff. And we walked over to a Ross.
It was a Marshall's.
Oh, sorry. It was a Marshall's. There's a Ross over there,
yeah,
too,
they're right next to each other.
Oh. Okay. Well, we went to the Marshalls. We didn't have time for Ross. Sorry, yeah. We'll get you next time. But we went over there and we were just looking because we had like 30 minutes before the movie started. And on the way back over to the movie theater, we were like, if it were like this,
yeah,
it would be fine. Because
it was
like,
breezy. The sun was down.
Yeah. And it was, I think I checked it, and it was saying it was like 87 degrees still,
yeah.
But like it didn't really feel that bad.
When the sun is beating down on you, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah. It's a nightmare constantly to be outside. I feel like I can't go anywhere without being miserable.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to blast my air conditioning in the car.
Yeah.
And like... I don't start to feel comfortable again until I'm basically
at
where
destination.
I'm going, at which point I have to get back out.
Yeah,
and I'm like, do I need to go to the grocery store today?
Yep. Yep. It's no fun. I'm definitely, people say that they get like seasonal depression in the winter.
Yeah.
I feel like I get it in the summer. Because I just, like, it's too hot. I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do anything. I don't want to socialize.
Yeah, it ruins kind of the outdoor experience. Like, yeah. I like the springtime because it's not, other than I have bad allergies. So I don't like it for that. But, like, setting that aside, because I can take medication for it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the weather's far more enjoyable because it's not super hot yet. You can still be outside. But it's like this. Ugh. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
Ever. So
Never.
It ruins it.
Never.
And then, I really like the fall and winter. I kind of go back and forth between which one's my favorite. I like really cold, so maybe winter is it for me. But I also like how fall looks a lot of the time. So, plus you got Halloween and a lot of the fun stuff is around then.
All the best stuff happens that time of year anyway.
Yeah. But so like I tend to like want to do more stuff outside and hang out with people and like do stuff.
Same.
Because like I think when you say like bonfires and like get-togethers and stuff, I think that works equally well for like fall and summer.
Mm-hmm.
Because like s'mores is a whole thing, and I know people do that over the summer, but I also know people do it during the fall.
Yeah. And
it's kind of this like one or the other thing, and I'm definitely in the fall camp.
Oh, I'm big time in the fall camp. Yeah. As soon as someone is like, summer is my favorite season,
I tell them to get out.
I'm like, you're a freaking psychopath. sorry to anyone here whose favorite season is summer, but like, why? No. Maybe if you live in a different place where it's not quite as humid, I could see that.
Sure.
But yeah, it's just miserable.
Yeah, maybe we'd change our minds if we lived somewhere else.
I mean, I do think that's part of it. As well as like, global warming. But, you know, what are we going to do?
I don't know. But Speaking of things, I think I've tried to do a segue every episode.
You always try to do
it. I try to do one, and I think I got one this time.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
Speaking of things that are going to end the world, we saw A Quiet Place Day 1.
Day 1.
And I guess, like, so you don't have to skip ahead. We really liked this one. It was really, really good. I think we talked about last time that, like, because we went and saw it in the theater, that if the theater going experience was bad, we were going to talk about it. It wasn't. It was actually really good.
It was so neutral.
It was like, it was fine. It wasn't like overly packed, which was interesting. It wasn't dead either. It was like just a normal amount of people there to see a movie. Nobody was like opening weird, like their mail. Having a Zoom meeting,
crafting a crown out of tinfoil.
Yeah, like none of that was going on. It was fine.
Activities they were doing. Yeah, it was good. I definitely really liked this movie, and of course, for anyone who doesn't know, it is a prequel, so it's part of the Quiet Place franchise. We've had A Quiet Place 1 and 2, which like built on the same family, and then this one, as the name suggests, goes back to the beginning, but it also is in like a different location following different people.
Yeah.
So it really, aside from being set in the same universe, it doesn't have anything to do with the first two.
There is
movies.
Like there is like one character crossover.
Yeah.
Or like a couple character crossovers, but like they're only important if you've seen.
Yeah, you could see this one without having seen the other ones, and you'd probably be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I in general like the Quiet Place movies. I liked the first one better than the second one.
Me too.
But I appreciate them because, you know, it's a fun concept of the like, oh, you gotta be quiet or else they gonna get you.
Yeah.
But also I appreciated from the beginning of this franchise, and I think this one takes this to its, you know, to its greatest height, is that it's not just a horror movie, but it's also about like the interpersonal relationships of the characters.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a character drama in addition to a horror movie.
I also appreciate about these that they're not overly filled with, I think a thing that happens a lot in apocalypse movies, like, you know, with zombies or what have you, it doesn't really matter, but like where the real danger after a point stops being necessarily it's the other people that are still around. And they haven't done anything in these ones. They
toy with that a little bit in a section of the sequel.
Yeah.
Because there is like a group that are like weird, like I guess you'd think of them as kind of like raiders or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the only time they play with that concept. And every other time they actually kind of have a more hopeful view of humanity that like generally people will help each other.
Yeah. Like it's almost constantly people like sacrificing either themselves or going out of their way to help others to like all get through this together. I think this movie, this one in particular, really showcases that. There's like one scene where it breaks bad, and like you could say, well, maybe it's not in that case, but also like I don't know what you would do. We'll cover it in a minute, but
anyway, I'll get into some of the basics of it. So, of course, 2024 apocalyptic horror movie. This one was written and directed by Michael Sarnowski, and that's a little bit of a difference because the first two, it was John Krasinski who also starred in the first one. So Michael Sarnowski wrote and directed this one based on John Krasinski's original concept.
I feel like, just as an aside, he did a really good job with like keeping like the themes and the tone from the first two and making it a prequel.
They feel
so
like a
it
set.
Really ties in, and you feel like all three of these really fit together.
Yeah, but the basic concept of this one is that New York City comes under attack from an alien invasion, leading a terminally ill woman and other survivors to try to find a way to safety. They soon learn that they must remain absolutely silent as the mysterious creatures are drawn to the slightest sound. So it's just exploring, it's expanding on that concept.
Yeah, I mean, if you've seen the first one or the second one, it's more of that. It's different characters in a different setting.
Yeah.
And you might think, well, what more is there really to do with it? But
there's more.
Again, this is one of the movies themselves. Like, it's not just about, like, ooh, scary monster. Like, that is part of it. But it is about, like, the interpersonal connections and relationships of the characters. This one is also very powerful. I think all three of them have, like, different kind of themes to them that, like, really would hit different people.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think as long as they stick to doing that, because I think there's already talks about continuing with this prequel thing and, like, expanding off of this one, that, like, there is stuff to say. Like, the monsters are always there, and we get to learn a little bit more about them in every one of these. But yeah,
we've got a good cast too. So of course it is starring Lupita Nyong'o, who's wonderful. I mean, what a delight every time she's on screen. But she's playing our main character, who is a terminally ill cancer patient. And then we have Joseph Quinn playing, and her name is Sam. And then we have Joseph Quinn playing Eric, who's another survivor that meets up with Sam throughout the course of this movie. And then we also have Alex Wolff playing Ruben, who is a hospice worker. And then we have Jamon Hunsu playing Henri, and that is the character that has some crossover with past movies. And then we also have Nico and Schnitzel, who played Sam's cat, Frodo.
I was gonna say, you said the main character was Sam,
but you're
actually wrong. It is Frodo.
Yes, very importantly, this movie prominently features a delightful cat.
That cat spent all 9 lives.
Oh, and then some. Borrowed some other ones.
It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. The cat stuff was insane. Yeah. But yeah, just to kind of get into it, I think this movie does, and I kind of wanted to say this up top in case anyone's listening to this to try and decide if they want to go see this movie.
Yeah.
It's very much about, like, grief and like dying and death and illness is, like, a huge part of this story. The whole thing is an exploration of that, because obviously Sam, our main character, she's terminally ill. She's in an inpatient hospice, and she goes on, like, kind of a field trip into the city with other hospice patients. And it's very clear from the beginning that she kind of has this, like, she's a little bit jaded. She's kind of, she's angry at the world because of, obviously she's going through this, and it's not fair. But her personal quest throughout this movie isn't really just for survival.
No.
But it's actually to have, like, autonomy over her death and, like, to get to go out on her terms. So rather than it being a story where it's like, oh, they're just trying to get to an evacuation point, she's kind of doing the opposite. And she's trying to get to her favorite pizza place in Harlem so that she can have one last slice, because it's going to be the last one that ever exists on the earth. I
think this quest, and it sounds silly when you say it, and I mean, it kind of is. Like,
she
doesn't give, so she gives that as the reason that, like, she wants to have this one last slice of pizza because it's going to be the last one. There is deeper, like, meaning behind it, but she doesn't really get into that until way later into the movie. And so you kind of read it as this, like, silly quest of, like, I mean, I get that you have terminal cancer, but, like, really, you're gonna go downtown to Harlem? But it ends up being this really powerful thing by the end of it, that, like, the final scene of the movie was just, like, it was very cool. It plays out in a way that you're like, that's badass. And honestly, even for me, like, if we hadn't gotten the additional layers, I would still like it as a concept, because I think it's very human
to want to go out on your own terms, even though like the whole world is ending, which wasn't something that she was like. It's this interesting juxtaposition of like her whole world was already ending, and then the whole world ended. You know, so it's like she was already kind of in this mindset, and everyone else is catching up to her in some ways, you know. But she has her little cat Frodo. They're Sam and Frodo.
Yeah, they so the cat that she has is like a service pet. That she has.
She describes it as like an emotional support animal or something.
And she keeps it on like a leash.
Takes it with her everywhere.
Pretty much the entire time. There are several points in the movie where the cat gets away from her. Right when the monsters kind of drop down from space. That is like the first time the cat goes away, and I think everyone at the same time probably had the thought of like, oh well, the cat's dead. They just did it in a way that we don't have to like.
That's kind of what I
really
thought too, where I was like, okay,
because she's on a bus, the bus that they took to get into the city. When these things like drop down and there's this big explosion and it like blows her back through the bus, and she wakes up and she's been like. Oh no, she gets like knocked around and she's like out on the street and like it's like all, you know.
That was another thing, is it was like very much giving like 9/11 parallels.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was like kind of shocking to see.
Yeah, like she couldn't like see anything that was going on. She could just like hear stuff, and like people would like there'd be these loud noises, and then of course like whatever it was, like if it was a person screaming, they would just get like snatched up literally like into the mist. She's just sort
of stumbling through, you know, terrified.
And eventually she gets like knocked out, but then she like wakes up and she's inside the theater that she was just in. They had gone to see like a puppet show, which she didn't know that's what they were going to see, that she was kind of tricked into it. And you get the reveal that the cat is somehow safe and sound, and they hand it back to her.
Alex Wolff, because he's the like he works at the hospice, so he was the person who was like, you know, kind of arranging the trip and bringing everybody up there. I guess he found the cat, and because the cat was hanging out with him when she wakes up, you know. So it's pretty crazy. And one thing I will say too, I saw a couple people criticizing this for being like, it's really unrealistic that she like went unconscious and then by the time she woke back up, everyone already knew like you have to be silent because they hunt by sound. Whether or not that's unrealistic, to me it makes so much sense to do it that way, because as a viewer, you're not watching this if you haven't already seen the first two. We already know. Like, we don't need to go through a whole 45-minute discovery of this fact, you know, like in world, in character.
Well, I mean, even still, like, you could watch this one as your first. If you've never seen them before, this could be your entry into it. It literally comes before the other ones.
Right.
And even if you watch chronological release date, the first one, it's not like they get, like, super into...
No.
Like... how they figured it out. Everyone's just quiet from the get-go. You have this understanding pretty quick that any sound you make will attract them.
Right.
And so I think you're absolutely right in that, regardless of if it's realistic or not, it is a shorthand way to move past that for the audience's sake, so we don't have to have the discovery
of information we already know.
Yeah. Plus, it's... The little description for the movie tells you that anyway, so like if you read that, and it's not like a spoiler or anything like that, it just straight up tells you that's kind of the rules of it, so we don't need to spend
a bunch of time on it.
You know, this doesn't need to be a 3-hour movie, so we can have the middle hour of it being like, if we make any sound, they're gonna get us.
You know. But anyway, I thought that was a smart way to do it, because it just kind of gets over that initial hump, and then we can get into the meat of the story, you know. So there's like a bunch of survivors in this place, and pretty quickly they're hearing there's like military jets that are overhead above the city that are announcing like shelter in place, stay quiet. They're, you know, attracted to sound. stay inside, like block the doors, whatever. So it gets telecast anyway, like even if you didn't know.
I mean, I think people who are like upset about it, it's just like, I mean, even in universe, it like the military finds out that
and they're literally announcing
they're telling it to everyone, so okay, just listen to them.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting because like they're doing these, you know, announcements every so often for people's benefit, but then every time they do it, it causes the monsters to like go crazy because there's all this sound and they don't really know where it's coming from. So there was like basically like a stampede of them going through the city trying to follow this noise, which was extremely chaotic and horrifying, but it's wild.
One thing about this movie is I don't think it's particularly scary.
I didn't think it was super scary either. Tense, yes.
Yeah. It's tense in the same way that like the other ones are, where like, you know, one of the things is around and you're like, don't make any noise.
Yep.
And, you know, as stuff happens, of course, they start making noise and the thing starts coming after them. There's a couple of like jump scary kind of moments. Scares. But other than that, it's not like really bloody. It's not, I just don't think it's like particularly scary, which is not a knock against it at all.
I wouldn't say it's super intense scary. Honestly, to me, this movie was more moving than it was frightening, you know?
Yeah.
Just by the nature of the characters and everything. I mean, still, you know, like the monster design is good, and we got some more like close-ups on the monsters this time, so that's always fun.
Yeah, I think they're interesting. Again, like because we've seen the other ones, and if you've seen the other ones and you're watching this one now, like we get to see some things and you're like, oh, okay, this is the thing they did in like the first one or the second one or whatever.
Right.
Like there's a scene where we like zoom in really close to one as it's like opening its little
weird
ear thing flap, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like, that, yeah, I know how that works or whatever. And I think the movie does a good job of going over that stuff so we know the rules are the same, but also introducing some things that they set up and we have more questions.
Yeah.
There's a scene 75% of the way through the movie maybe where Eric has to go out on his own because Sam has to take these
she has to take pain medication.
It's like this patch that she has to put on.
Yeah, she does fentanyl
them.
Patches for cancer.
Yeah, and so she needs more of them, but she's like really weak at this moment. And so she tells Eric to, you know, go get these things. So he goes out to get them. And while he's out, the cat like gets away from him.
The cat just randomly like pops up.
Yeah, and like leads him to this area. It looks like it's a building that's under construction or something like that. It's got all the steel, you know, beams and supports and everything exposed. And inside of it, there are these like weird pod things.
Yeah, almost like eggs.
Yeah, they kind of look like eggs, but then the creatures show up while he's kind of in this area because he's trying to get the cat back.
Yeah. This freaking cat.
This cat. And we see them like open these things and it almost seems like they're eating them.
Yeah, I don't fully know.
It's weird.
What that was.
So like they're raising these like questions. Also, I was talking to somebody about this recently, and they had seen it and they were like, one of them looked like it was much larger than the other ones. And like we didn't know if it was like a camera thing or what, but if it was a larger one, do they have like a queen structure or something like that, like a hierarchical structure?
Yeah.
So like they're like even starting to like unfold some new stuff because now as the audience we're comfortable with the okay, just don't make noise.
Right. We got
like,
that.
Yeah. We still don't know where they came from.
Yeah.
Or anything about
or
that.
like why
or like why they're here, if they're like intelligent in that way, why they came here, other than they might just know we exist and want to eat us. Yeah. Kind of a thing, which is fine as a reason. I'm sure we're
delicious.
Yeah. Well. But yeah, no, I think it's a really cool way to kind of keep interest in it going.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's helpful to kind of continue to build, but at the same time, like I feel like again the monsters are kind of like the backdrop of this movie.
Yeah.
and the characters are the major story, you know?
Yeah, the best scenes in the movie are easily when Sam and Eric are, like, connecting over, you know, their experiences.
Yeah.
There's a scene where after she meets Eric, he like, comes up from a subway that has been, like, flooded. And the cat has gotten away from Sam at this point and is just, like, standing on, like, the railing that goes down into the subway. And he, like, emerges and he sees the cat, and then he follows the cat over and finds Sam. And then he just keeps following Sam.
He looks, like, completely shell-shocked.
Yeah. And, like, he's lost and he doesn't know what to do. And she had figured out earlier, because there were these two kids that she had found when she initially left the theater, that running water, as long as you are quieter than the, like, ambient sound, they can't hear you. And so it had started to rain, and they were underneath one of those, like, scaffolding things that goes over the sidewalk, so it was, like, creating enough noise that she starts whispering to Eric, and basically is like, stop following me. You need to go that way to get out. I'm not going that way.
Because they announce, like, evacuation points, so pretty much everybody is trying to go towards those. But again, she's on this mission to get her slice of pizza, so she's going against the grain of everyone else. But Eric is now following her.
Yes, but anyway, they end up going to her old apartment or whatever, and getting in there, and there's this we start to discover that she was a poet. They allude to it at the very beginning, but she's written a very, like, bad poem that's very angry, and she's, like, making fun of the other people she's in hospice with, and because she doesn't want to do it and she hates everything. But she has a book in there, and he's, like, looking through it and seeing that, but it's raining and it's, like, storming really bad, so they use that to, like, cover Eric kicking the door down. And then they have this thing where obviously she's, like, frustrated and upset about everything, and she screams when the lightning and the thunder happens. And then he starts to do it too, and so you start to get this, like, bonding, and it's very emotional and powerful. And then later, you know, on in the movie, we discover more about, like, why the pizza is so important to her.
Because she shares with Eric, I'm pretty sure this is, you know, around when he's going to get her the medication and stuff. She shares with him that her dad also died of this same disease, and she has, like, obviously that's a whole other thing. It's like she's dealing with her own grief about her terminal illness, but then also she's lost her father to the same terminal illness, and all the grief and trauma that comes along with that. And we explore that more as it goes along, that he was, like, a jazz musician, and he used to play at, like, a jazz bar that was in Harlem, and next door was the pizza place, Patsy's, that they would always go and get a slice. So it's like, it is about the pizza, but it's more about...
it's more about what the pizza, like, symbolizes, right? Like, it's this connection to her dad and her younger self and those memories and everything, and, you know, that's the last of that she'll ever have.
Exactly.
You know, and the movie's just about them getting there, basically, and they do finally make it there, and when we finally see Patsy's, it's been blown out, like, it's torched and on fire. There's nothing salvageable
it's
from
so
there.
Sad.
And the bar that she was talking about is fine, basically.
It's, like, across the street.
So they
fine.
go in there, and she's kind of just hanging out, and Eric does this thing where he goes and he
goes to
he finds a different pizza place, and he goes in and he manages to find this, like, box of pizza that's like mostly still there. So he brings it back. And at
that point, it's probably, like, 3 days old.
And just been sitting.
Who knows? In the
heat. And she's, you know, drinking and whatever. And they have this moment. Again, it's all silent. They can't talk.
They don't talk. They just silently have this interaction where they eat the pizza and they drink their...
He gets up on stage and he does, like, a magic trick, you know, with her and everything, and it's, like, this really powerful thing, and eventually, like, she ends up giving him her, like, sweater cardigan thing.
Yeah.
And, because he had been wearing kind of a suit the whole time, and it's, you know, getting more and more destroyed as it goes on, but she gives him this thing because she basically... she's not going to leave the city. She doesn't want to do that. There's nothing really for her out there because, like, even existing in the city once this all kind of broke, it was a struggle for her to get, like, one dose of this medication. So she's not looking to do that. Plus, even if she got it, she's going to live out the rest of her days in fear of these things or whatever. So she's like, I'm not going to go. But she kind of resolves to make sure that Eric gets out. Yes. And then by extension also that Frodo gets out. Yes. She gives him her cardigan, and they make this plan because they see one of the last boats, these ferries evacuating, to, like, go down on the road that goes along the water and try to get him, you know, into the water.
But unfortunately, all the creatures have been attracted by the noise, so they're, like, standing along the shore and, like, creeping down the road. They're like afraid of / can't swim in water. There's a scene earlier in the movie, just before we get to the scene where she needs to send Eric out to go get the patch, where they end up going down into the subway again, and I can't remember why they end up having to go down in there. I think, like, there's something happening up on the street where it's like they accidentally make a sound. That's right, they make a sound, and, like, a whole shitload of them. Yeah, and so then they go down there just to, like, get shelter. Away from it, and then another one starts to come down there and follow them, so they have to go. But in order to get into, like, to keep going, they have to get into the water because it's all flooded. And as they do that, there's one that's like, this was maybe the creepiest one. Yeah. It's, like, in the ceiling, and there's, like, this crater that has been, like, carved out in the ceiling of the subway tunnel, and it's just, like, in there. Yeah. Just, like, waiting. And they kind of go underneath it, and it can't really hear them because of the water. And she has taken Frodo and put him in, like, her bag that she has. It's like this I Heart New York bag that she got. And, is, like, carrying that, like, above the water and everything. Yeah. But eventually... he's floating on something. Yeah. But, like, I don't remember what it was. But eventually, like, the water starts to rise. And I guess Eric, either from PTSD or, like, he just has trouble swimming or is afraid of the water. There are a few different points where he seems to have something verging on a panic attack. Yeah. Which... maybe pre-existing anxiety or panic disorder, or might just be a result of this high stress situation. But it comes up here, but there's a couple other times when it affects him. He starts to panic while they're in the water, and it's getting higher and higher, and she's trying to calm him down, but it's kind of too late when this happens. They're making too much noise, and the thing hears him and starts to come after them, and it's climbing on the ceiling until the water gets to the point where they have to go under the water, and then it goes under the water with them, but it drowns, like, really quickly. Yeah, these things are hopeless at swimming. Yeah, this was the most unrealistic thing with the cat in the entire movie, because they go underwater for, like, I mean, it's not, like, a crazy long time. But it's a while. But the cat is in a bag and it would have to be terrified. Yeah. Would have you can't be like, okay, hold your breath. Or right. The cat's not going to know. So it just goes underwater. This thing's got to be, like, in the bag freaking the fuck out. Yeah. And they're underwater, and they eventually come up through this, like, hole that has been, I guess, one of the craters from when these things came down through this, like, church cathedral thing, and they climb up through that. The cat's fine when they get out. The cat's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Honestly, this cat is, like... The cat had plot armor. That's what I'm saying. It used, like, all 9 of its lives in this movie. Yeah, yeah. It survived explosions, basically... almost being drowned twice. Almost getting, like, ran over in a human stampede. Yeah. All sorts of stuff. Yeah, all sorts of crazy stuff. Yeah. So, anyway, like, that's why they're not going to the boat to kill those people, but they are attracted to the noise that the people are making. Yeah. So they're kind of congregating, which is putting Eric in a difficult position because he can't just, like... walk up shore and be like, hey, let me on, you know, because... like, and also the boat's not gonna, like, pull back close enough to shore because these things could get on it. Exactly. So they kind of resolved to
she's gonna like sacrifice herself, basically.
Yeah.
She finds like a crowbar or something, and then they make the plan to, you're gonna go this way, I'm gonna go that way, and I'm gonna start breaking windows and stuff. And so she starts doing that, and of course it attracts all the things, and they're, you know, running after her. But just before she gets got, Eric like kicks a can or something by accident.
Yep.
And
then they start chasing him again.
And it leads to this big thing where they're like running down like the dock or pier or whatever at him, and he jumps into the water carrying the cat.
Yep.
And
this cat in water so many times.
So many times. But he ends up like getting onto the ferry and everything, and he's fine, the cat's fine, and then we get the this reveal, he's like kind of laying there, and he like feels the pocket, and he feels there's like a piece of paper in there, and he pulls it out, and there's this letter that she had written, basically being like, you better take care of my cat,
and also thanks,
and also thank you.
And also this was like the big tie-in to the second one, because Henri, who we saw a few different times throughout the movie, he's on the boat. And he's kind of talking about using this water thing to their advantage, which in the second one, he's the leader on a group that is on an island.
That's
and
completely...
So it's surrounded on all sides by water, so it's kind of this nice little like insulated natural protection. And so we know he goes on to start that in the future. So this was his backstory. Which I guess would also suggest that maybe is or was there at some point. Yeah,
so Eric is from England. And part of what's like making him upset when they finally get to talk about it in the apartment is that like his parents are back home there, and he came here to study, like go to law school. And so he's like really torn up about it. So it is unclear at the end of the movie if he's trying to get all the way back to England.
I don't even know how he would pull that off.
I don't know either. Or if he's sticking with these guys. He's not in the second movie.
No.
So we don't know.
But he also like he could have been like that character could have existed on the island.
Absolutely. He just may not have been pivotable or you know, important.
Pivotal.
Whatever. You know what I meant. Pivotal. I'm talking all day.
I know. We played D&D before this, so we're like totally fried.
I gotta do D&D after this.
I know, it's crazy.
It's just like
but anyway, so it's a happy ending for him. He goes off presumably to safety, and then we get like a final scene. So we do get resolution for Sam. She has gotten this like she has like an iPod, and there's like a little like speaker dock thing.
You might not remember this, depending. I mean, like I think our audience will, from like when they were younger, but like those speakers that have the iPod, because she has an old iPod one with a wheel on it and everything, and it has the dock on it to click
so you
into
click
it
in.
And she has physical earbuds that she's plugged into it so she can listen to the music. So and
she's walking down the streets of New York. She's listening to Nina Simone's "Feeling Good." Right as the beat drops. An intersection. And she rips the headphone jack out, and then the speakers start blaring, and we see one of the creatures jump down behind her. And we don't see her die, but it's it
immediately cuts to black. But it's so good and so powerful. That
she went out on her terms.
Goes out on her own terms. She looks like so confident. Just like she's fully accepted it. She doesn't even care.
She went through what she needed to go through to get to that point. And it was really good. Definitely like I ranked this movie pretty high, and I think part of it is that one, I just love a good like I love some drama in my horror. But I also think like because of my own life experiences of like one, I literally used to be a hospice social worker, and two, death of one of my own parents. It's kind of this thing of like it just struck me on all levels. I was literally openly crying in the theater for the last like third of the movie.
Yeah, no, for like literally the last 45, 30 minutes, you were like sobbing kind of quietly. And as soon as the credits rolled,
I got up.
Like the theater we go to has like the recliner seats in it, and you had already closed yours in like preparation for this. Mine was still open, and you like got up and like bumped into my feet. I've never seen you leave a theater quicker.
I was going to the bathroom so that I could, you know, clean my face
I had gotten
off.
out and I was just like sipping on my soda. I went and got a refill.
Meanwhile, I'm
sitting on the bench, kind of kicking my feet, just like, that was a pretty good movie.
Fighting for my life.
Cutting back to you, just. You text me and you're like, a bunch of people just came in here, so I have to be quiet while I'm in here.
But yeah, I was going through it seeing that movie, because I also I did not know anything about this movie.
No,
I didn't know that
any
she was
of that.
terminally ill. I didn't know that she was a hospice patient. I didn't know any of that stuff. I just knew that it was a prequel that took place in New York, and so I was literally like not prepared for that, and I was like so emotional about it, which I do think that's probably, again, like, I'm sure that my score is kind of inflated because it's something that's personally relevant to me and personally meaningful to me. But for someone who maybe doesn't have the same life experiences, it might not hit as hard. So you might not have connected to it in that way.
You had asked me on the drive back home, you were like, you know, would I be crazy to say this is the best of the three of them?
Yeah.
And I responded and just said, well, I think it depends on like what is like what you resonate with, because I can the first one is really good just on its own. Like A Quiet Place is just good, but the idea of the big twist in that one is that John Krasinski, who directed and like made the movie and everything like that, he's one of the main characters in the movie, ends up sacrificing himself at like towards the very end of it to save the kids. And I can understand, even though like I'm not a parent, how like somebody who is a parent might resonate more with that than somebody like you, who would resonate more with like the death of a parent or a loved one, or you know the hospice stuff or any of that. So I think it is dependent on your life experiences, like which is more impactful for you. I think this movie is still really good. And I don't have either of those things to kind of like come to, and I still think they're really good. I think it is probably my favorite and I think that's totally fair. And by the way, like we're talking that you're saying like your score is inflated, we can talk about the scores really quickly here. Literally, I think we're a 1 point difference, not like 0.1, but literally 1 point. I rated it overall a 7.1 and you rated it an 8.1. So it gets a 7.6 as a total from us. The biggest ding to it from both of us is the scares. Again, it's not very scary. I didn't find it to be super. I gave it a 6 with scares, but that was specifically because I was also including the like tension aspect. I think it did do a good job of creating those moments where like it's silent in the movie, the characters are being silent, and you find yourself like holding your breath because you're also like, oh shit, they're gonna find us, you know. So I slightly gave it a little bump because of the tension, but I don't think like tension is a bit different from outright scariness. You know? And it's not even like uncomfortable, you know what I mean? Like certain movies, like there's tension and you feel uncomfortable. It's not that you really even feel uncomfortable in this. It is truly just like oh god, I hope they don't make a sound. It's more like I'm on the edge of my seat because you know what comes if they do make a sound. But everything else about this movie, for me, like the performances, the like how things looked, the vision of it, which I said at kind of the top of this, that I think the director of this did a really good job of keeping in line with what the established 2 movies already have. Agreed. Like all of that is really good. I rated those 8s, and then the entertainment is a 7.5 for me. I knocked it down a little bit on the entertainment because I love the cat thing. I do think it's a little silly at times, and it kind of takes me out of it when I'm just like, I agree with that. I'm more concerned about the cat than anything else in this scene. The cat stuff was kind of weird because I feel like they sort of took some liberties with like sometimes
the cat like wouldn't be relevant at all to what's going on, and it's just assumed the cat is like in the bag and the cat's cool.
Yeah, it's like they hand wave it at certain points when they need to like run to get away, and the cat's just like, I'm gonna be in this bag getting jostled.
But then other times the cat is like causing problems. Or because like a big thing towards the beginning is when they're initially sheltering in the theater right after the fallout of all of this, the cat gets like jump scared because of the sounds that are happening, and bolts out of the theater and into the lobby and is trying to like get out of the building. And it's this whole tense thing where she's like chasing after the cat, but then there are like creatures outside of the doors of the theater, and she can't quite get to the cat because there's a bunch of broken glass and stuff from the chaos. And so there's this thing of like trying to get to him or get him to come to her, but like it's not really happening. And so it is just funny to me, like certain times they do stuff like that where he's the reason they're in a tense situation, and then other times they're just like, whatever, he's fine.
Yeah, the cat's fine. Don't worry about it, guys. There was a lot of like, for sure the cat's dead now, right? And then it's not, the cat's fine. So I think that does kind of knock it down like a little bit for overall. But again, I think this movie was really, really good.
I liked it.
Watch it again.
I do think it would be kind of interesting to do like a rewatch of the franchise, but watch this one first. So that you kind of see it in the timeline order. I think that would be cool.
I also wonder what they're gonna do for another one if they do it. I've heard rumblings that they're going to, if they do another one, it would either be potentially about like the military side of things, because we don't really have any of that.
That would be an interesting twist.
Or it would be about the journey of the people on the ferry to the island. Like they didn't just get to it right away, because by the time we see it in the second movie, it's an established.
It's like a full on like they've been society.
Because like the second one picks up basically right after the first movie ends, and in the first movie, it's literally been like how many? It's at least a year.
I don't know exactly. Maybe like, 2 years or so.
It's been a while that they've been like living like this.
It would be interesting to see the military side of things, or even maybe like going internationally if they wanted to do another spotlight of like a different, group, just set it in a totally different location. It's also kind of interesting because anytime there's like post-apocalyptic stuff, I always think about the people who would like just by sheer bad luck and happenstance be so royally fucked because this happened. Like in particular, like imagine if you were like an astronaut and you were doing like you're in like your satellite or something.
Yeah,
in
you're like on the ISS.
Yeah. And then this shit happens, and it's just like, okay, so I can't go back to Earth now, and like I've lost communication with the ground. Like I always think of stuff like that, of just all the niche situations where you would just be so royally fucked.
Did you have a scariest moment?
Scariest moment. Goodness gracious. I think probably the scariest moment for me, just because it was so tense, was pretty early on after Sam interacted with those two kids. She's kind of leading them towards the evacuation point because they've come over the speakers or whatever to say like these certain points are, you try to get to these. So she's with these two kids and they turn a corner and they basically see like a massive parade of people like sardines filling the street that are slowly walking towards the direction of the evacuation. And she tells the kids to go, get in the crowd, but she's trying to go the opposite way because she's trying to get to Harlem. And for whatever reason, she did decide to walk into the crowd to walk against the grain, which I was like, probably not the best idea.
Pick, like, an alley or a side street.
I
mean, it's New York, which I guess doesn't have like a lot of alleys.
Yeah, but still. It's a sidewalk. I don't know. But we see like, even though the people are individually being quiet, like it's not like people are yelling and screaming.
Yeah, everyone's marching silently.
Yeah, but it's the buildup of all these small sounds. Like they like spotlight all these people. Like one guy has a suitcase, like a wheeled luggage, and people like someone's like sandals are kind of clip clopping against the ground.
Yeah, somebody's like wearing like clown shoes. And another guy's just
it's just really gassy that day. Yeah. But all of this creates enough noise that it starts to attract the things, the aliens, and so we start to see them like slowly creeping down the buildings, and then finally like kind of break the seal and they jump down, and it just becomes mass chaos where everyone is like screaming and running in different directions and people are just being killed left and right. And she's in a precarious situation because she got knocked over, and so she's literally being like run over by people trying to run for their lives. I just thought that whole scene was really scary because it felt very like I could see that happening if this like really occurred, and the whole thing just felt so claustrophobic, like watching all these people packed together and knowing something's gonna happen. So I liked that scene. I
don't know if it's the scariest. Maybe, I don't know. You end up like knowing what's coming by the end of it when it happens, but they're still in the theater, and Sam is telling what's his name, Ruben. Yeah, she's telling Ruben that she's gonna go to Harlem to get the pizza, and leave the group and whatever. And he's like, no, you can't do that. And she's like, yes, I can. And while they're having this conversation, the lights go out in the building that they're in, and then a generator starts up, and it's like really loud sound, and they immediately get up and rush to go turn the generator off. And he's trying to reach behind like the generator and in between a wall to try to like flip it off, and he finally gets it, and the whole time you're like, well, he's probably gonna get got because this loud ass thing, but he flips it off and it's quiet, and he's like
yeah, they both like have this moment of like, okay, we got there in time.
And then he goes to walk away from the generator, and I guess his shirt was caught on a piece of it, and it tears. And when that happens, he just like, he stops, looks at it, looks up at Sam, and then we get this like shot from down kind of the back alley where she's standing, and one of the creatures just jumps across the alley and grabs him,
sideswipes him,
and just like takes him all the way across, and he's just done.
Yep.
So it's like, it's really fast, really quick.
And again, Lupita Nyong'o is so good because she does this like kind of like start to scream, but then she like stifles it, and I was just like, ooh, she's so good at what she does.
Yeah.
But
this movie was really good. You should see it if you...
I liked it.
I don't know if it's still in theaters. I don't know
either.
But if it's not, when it comes to streaming, you should see it.
Sure.
If you've never seen any of the Quiet Place movies, start here because it comes first. But you don't have to. You can start on the first one.
Yeah.
Either way.
It's all a good
Either
time.
order is fine. Just obviously don't start on the second Quiet Place.
That one would be the most confusing place to
start. Because it literally starts at the end of the first movie. So, like, don't start there. But otherwise, definitely watch them. They're good movies.
Yeah.
I don't think I have anything else about this one.
I don't think I do either. We do want to let you know that next week we're doing another new release. So we are going to be doing Long Legs.
Yeah, we're doing Long Legs. That's the movie we just went and saw.
Yeah. And, some crazy viral marketing for Long Legs. So
yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about that next week. But if you want to check out Long Legs, it is in theaters now.
Yeah, it's in theaters right now, and then it won't be.
And then it won't be at some point.
So...
Who
and then
knows?
Maybe in like 30 years they'll do like a retro flashback cinema,
and then it will be in theaters again.
It in theaters again for like one day, but it'll be a day that you're having to work.
You work, so you
won't realize it until like a week after, because that's when you were able to go to the movies because you were seeing something else, and then you get excited because from afar you see the Jurassic Park poster on there, and then you realize, oh, that was a week ago. Yeah, and I was working that day anyway, so.
Real story.
I couldn't go.
That was me with The Mask. Starring Jim Carrey.
Yeah, but at least The Mask was on, like, you could stream it. Maybe that's what's happening. You think the retro cinema is based on, like, when these movies come to, like, free on the streaming things, and the movie theaters have a subscription to, like, Netflix?
Sharing
so when it gets on Netflix, they're like, oh, okay, add that one in.
I don't think that's allowed. Oh, man. All right. Well, you got anything else for this week?
No, I think that's it.
Alrighty. Well, as always, if you want to follow us, we're on social media. It's at First Fright Pod on Instagram and X. We also have a Facebook page called Love at First Fright, or you can send us an email. That is firstfrightpod@gmail.com. Feel free to send us your recommendations. We do schedule a few weeks out what we're gonna do, but we're always looking for things to add on to our schedule, so feel free to throw them our way.
And this has happened on more than one occasion when people recommend something and we're like, we haven't, like, fully booked it yet.
Yeah.
I have been known to switch around
we move
the
stuff
entire
up.
like production schedule around here to, like, fit something in because I get excited about it.
Yeah.
So
anyway, send us your...
Also, yeah, send us those, but also send us, like, what's your favorite season? Because I want to know. I want to know how many people out there are, like, you know, summer heads.
Yeah, are we the weird ones?
I mean, we are.
Yeah.
I'm confident we are. Because you never hear people being like, I live for the winter. Everyone's like, I live for the summer.
And I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either, but I'm telling you, we're going to be in the minority here.
Yeah, well...
But those of us who prefer the cold, unite.
Yes. Or if you're, like, a big summer person, tell me what to do so I can tolerate it.
Yeah.
You got any tips?
I've already tried standing out in the yard with a gardening hose just spraying on me. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
The ground just gets muddy.
Oh, gosh. Anyway, thanks for listening, everybody.
And as always, scare well. See you next time.
Bye. I'm doing it quiet because it's a quiet place.
This would actually work out well because if you could do what Lupita did and you would just, like, have headphones.
Yeah.
You know, download it on whatever so that you can listen to it offline. Because in the case of an apocalypse, you're not going to have access to Wi-Fi or the internet. So go ahead and download your library, download this show. That's almost a full day's worth of content at this point. So that'll keep you going for, you know, a little bit. Anyway.
Anyway.
Bye. Don't get eaten.